November 13th, 2007. Colin Smith finishes his workout at a gym in Speke, Liverpool. Ordinary Tuesday evening. Ordinary routine for a 40-year-old father of 4 who visits this gym several times a week. Keeping fit, staying healthy, maintaining the appearance of a man with nothing to hide. He towels off, checks his phone. A text message from a number he recognizes. Someone needs to meet him urgently outside. Business matter. Won't take long. Smith pockets the phone, gathers his belongings, walks toward the exit. He's not worried. He's handled thousands of business meetings over the years, most of them significantly more dangerous than a quick conversation in a gym car park. What Colin Smith doesn't know, what he cannot possibly know in these final moments, is that the text message is fake. The number is spoofed, the meeting is a trap. He doesn't know that 2 men have been watching his movements for weeks, learning his routines, identifying vulnerabilities, waiting for exactly this opportunity. He doesn't know that he's about to pay a debt 6 years overdue. A debt measured not in money, but in blood. A debt calculated in a language he thought he understood, but fatally miscalculated. Colin Smith pushes open the gym door and steps into the November darkness. Welcome to UK True Crime Files. Let's dive in. Within seconds, he'll be dead. But to understand why Colin Smith died on that November evening outside a Liverpool gym, we need to go back 6 years, to the decision that made him the most wanted man in Britain's criminal underworld. Liverpool, 1980s. Once the gateway to the British Empire, the city that built ships and moved cargo for half the world, now facing unemployment rates touching 40% in some neighborhoods. The docks close. Entire communities built around maritime work find themselves without purpose, without income, without hope. Into this economic devastation flows heroin first, earning Liverpool the grim nickname Smack City by the mid-1980s. Then cocaine arrives, cheaper to produce, more profitable to sell, easier to smuggle through the very port infrastructure that legitimate business has abandoned. Liverpool's geography makes it perfect for South American cartels seeking European distribution networks, direct shipping routes from Colombia, established Spanish expatriate communities providing cultural and linguistic bridges, a desperate population willing to take risks that more prosperous cities might avoid. For young men growing up on Liverpool's struggling estates, the choice becomes brutally simple. Sign on the dole for £70 a week or enter the drug trade, where a single successful transaction can earn more than a year of legitimate work. Some choose poverty, others choose risk, and a very few, the smart ones, the careful ones, the ones who learn from others' mistakes, choose the drug trade and actually survive. Curtis Warren becomes the template, Britain's first drug baron to make the Sunday Times rich list with an estimated fortune of £185 million. He runs cocaine from South America through the Netherlands into Britain, building an empire that makes him simultaneously famous and untouchable. Until 1996, when Dutch police finally dismantle his network. Warren is arrested, imprisoned, his empire shattered. Suddenly there's a vacuum at the top of Liverpool's criminal hierarchy. The question isn't whether someone will fill Curtis Warren's place, it's who will be smart enough to learn from his mistakes. The answer is a man nobody suspects. Remember, Colin Smith walked into a trap outside his gym in 2007. But the trap was set years earlier, in a city where legitimate opportunities had vanished and criminal enterprise offered the only path to wealth. Colin "Smigger" Smith is everything Curtis Warren wasn't. Warren drove Ferraris, wore designer suits, bragged about his wealth, cultivated a public image as Britain's most successful criminal. He wanted everyone to know who he was. Smith lives in a modest, semi-detached home in Speke, drives an ordinary car, wears ordinary clothes, operates a chain of legitimate car wash businesses across Merseyside. His neighbours see a devoted father of 4. His wife knows a hard-working husband who leaves for work early and returns home for dinner. His children have a dad who attends school events, coaches football, takes family holidays to Spain. But police files tell a different story. Behind those car wash businesses, genuinely profitable ventures that provide perfect cover, Colin Smith runs one of Europe's most sophisticated cocaine importation networks. Direct pipelines to Colombian cartels, established routes through Spanish expatriate networks in Marbella and the Costa del Sol. Shipments hidden in modified vehicles, cargo containers, legitimate business imports. Between 1995 and 2001, intelligence sources estimate Smith imports cocaine worth hundreds of millions of pounds, possibly exceeding Curtis Warren's peak operations. His greatest asset isn't smuggling skill, though he's technically proficient. It isn't connections, though his network spans from Liverpool to Marbella to Medellin. His greatest asset is reputation. Two principles guide every transaction: discretion and reliability. Discretion means no bragging, no flashy purchases, no public displays of wealth that attract attention from police or jealous competitors. His criminal associates know him only by his nickname, Smigger. Many don't know his real name. Most have never seen where he lives. Reliability means every shipment arrives on time, every payment made promptly, every debt honored without question. In a criminal world where trust is scarce and betrayal common, Smith's word becomes currency more valuable than cocaine. Colombian suppliers, naturally suspicious of foreign partners, burned repeatedly by dealers who disappear with product or inform to police, come to trust Colin Smith completely. He never misses a payment, never shorts a shipment, never involves them in violence or drama. For over a decade, this double life works perfectly. Smith grows wealthy while staying invisible, building an empire so quietly that even other criminals don't realize his scale. Until he meets the one person who could destroy it all. Colin Smith had learned from Curtis Warren's downfall. Stay quiet, stay reliable, and the money keeps flowing. Every criminal empire needs enforcement, someone to collect debts, intimidate rivals, handle situations requiring more than negotiation. Colin Smith found his in Stephen Lawler. Former nightclub bouncer, physically imposing, comfortable with violence in ways Smith never was. Where Smith avoided confrontation, Lawler thrived on it. Where Smith spoke softly, Lawler made threats that people believed. The partnership worked because their skills complemented rather than competed. Smith handled logistics, supply chains, financial arrangements, relationship management with Colombian suppliers. Lawler handled enforcement, debt collection, and increasingly, direct negotiations with the cartels themselves. Lawler's aggressive personality actually impressed suppliers who valued strength. Colombian cartel representatives, accustomed to dealing with violence as standard business practice, found Lawler's approach more comprehensible than Smith's quiet diplomacy. By 2001, Lawler has become Smith's primary link to the Colombian cartels. He travels to Spain regularly, meeting with cartel intermediaries, negotiating prices, arranging shipment details. The Colombians trust him. More importantly, they see him as the senior partner in the Liverpool operation. This perception, that Lawler, not Smith, runs the network, is both useful camouflage for Smith and a dangerous vulnerability he doesn't fully appreciate. Then comes the opportunity of a lifetime. 500 kilograms of pure Colombian cocaine, street value approximately £72 million. One of the largest single shipments ever arranged for the British market. The logistics are complex but manageable through their established routes. Shipment divided into smaller loads, transported through Spain, hidden in modified vehicles, brought into Britain through multiple entry points to minimize risk. The profit potential is staggering, even accounting for distribution costs, security expenses, payments to local dealers. Smith and Lawler stand to make approximately £20 million each. Everything should go smoothly. Both men have executed dozens of similar operations. The Colombian suppliers trust them. The distribution network in Britain is established and reliable. But in May 2001, just as the shipment is being finalized, Stephen Lawler is murdered. Remember, Smith built his success on trust and reliability. That reputation was about to be tested in the worst possible way. Liverpool's door wars, violent feuds over nightclub security contracts that generate millions in protection money and provide perfect cover for drug distribution. Stephen Lawler, with his bouncer background and increasingly obvious wealth, becomes a target. Rivalries that might have remained verbal turn physical. Threats become actions. May 2001. Lawler is gunned down in broad daylight on a Liverpool street. Professional hit, multiple shooters, no witnesses willing to come forward. The murder remains officially unsolved. For Colin Smith, Lawler's death creates an immediate crisis, extending far beyond grief over a lost friend and business partner. Stephen Lawler was Smith's primary contact with the Columbian cartels. He knew details about the £72 million shipment that Smith doesn't. He had relationships with cartel intermediaries that Smith has never personally cultivated. He was, in the Columbians' perception, the senior partner, the man they trusted to handle their product. And now he's dead. The shipment, 500 kilograms of pure cocaine, sits in a secure location somewhere in Europe, waiting for final transportation arrangements that only Lawler fully understood. Smith faces a choice: the honorable path, contact the Columbian suppliers immediately, explain Lawler's death, work out new arrangements, demonstrate that Liverpool's network remains reliable despite this tragic disruption, accept reduced profit while the Columbians find new intermediaries, maintain trust. Or Colin Smith, the man whose reputation was built on reliability, makes the decision that will ultimately kill him. He decides to keep the cocaine, all of it, sell it himself through established distribution networks, pocket the entire profit, not £20 million but closer to £40 million once he eliminates Lawler's share and the Columbians' cut. But he can't simply disappear with 500 kilograms of Colombian cocaine. The cartels would immediately know what happened. They'd hunt him down within weeks. So Smith creates a lie. He tells the Columbian suppliers that the shipment was seized by Dutch customs. Unfortunate timing, terrible luck, but these things happen in the drug trade. Law enforcement seizures are constant risks everyone accepts. He provides details, dates, location, plausible explanations. He expresses appropriate regret and disappointment. The suppliers, who trust Colin Smith's network because it's always been reliable, believe him. They write off the £72 million shipment as a business loss and move on. Meanwhile, Smith quietly sells the cocaine through his established British network over the following months. He makes approximately £20 million, more than he's ever made from a single operation. Enough to set up his family for generations. Enough to transition entirely into legitimate business if he chooses. For several months, the lie holds. Smith thinks he's executed the perfect crime. But in the criminal underworld, secrets don't stay secret forever. And when the truth came out, it came from the last person Smith expected. The cocaine that was supposed to make Smith and Lawler rich was now Smith's alone. But only if the Columbians never learned the truth. The exact timeline remains unclear. Intelligence reports suggest the truth emerged sometime in late 2001 or early 2002, approximately 6 to 9 months after Smith stole the shipment. The source was what law enforcement files refer to as the Cocaine King, a criminal associate whose precise identity varies across different intelligence reports, but whose role is consistent. Someone with access to both Smith's Liverpool network and Columbian cartel contacts. Whether through carelessness, revenge for some unrelated slight, or simply the impossibility of keeping such a large secret in a world where information is currency, someone told the Columbians what really happened. There was no Dutch customs seizure. Stephen Lawler's death wasn't the tragedy that disrupted business. Colin Smith, the quiet, reliable British partner they'd trusted for years, stole 500 kilograms of their cocaine and lied directly to their faces. The Columbian response was swift and unambiguous. A contract worth £1 million placed on Colin Smith's head. Word went out through criminal networks across Europe. Find him, kill him, collect the payment. £1 million. More than most professional criminals earn in a lifetime. More than enough to tempt dozens of potential assassins. But this wasn't primarily about recovering money. The Columbians had already written off the shipment's value as a business loss. The £1 million spent on Smith's assassination was a different kind of investment. An investment in reputation. Colombian cartels built their international operations on two principles: reliability and swift revenge. They delivered product on time, and they punished betrayal without hesitation. If Smith's theft went unpunished, it would encourage other criminal partners across Europe to consider similar betrayals. The message had to be clear: steal from the Colombians and you die. Not quickly, not easily, but inevitably. Colin Smith, the man who'd built his entire criminal career on understanding trust and reputation, had violated both. And now he faced consequences that no amount of money could prevent. He had become the most wanted man in Britain's criminal underworld. The countdown to his execution had begun. But it wouldn't end quickly. Remember that text message outside the gym in 2007? It was the final move in a game that started here when the cartels learned they'd been betrayed. 2001 to 2007. 6 years between the contract and the execution. 6 years of living with the knowledge that some of the world's most dangerous people wanted you dead and would pay handsomely to make it happen. Colin Smith knew the Colombians hadn't forgotten. Criminal associates whispered warnings. Intelligence reports, later revealed in court documents from unrelated cases, described suspicious individuals making inquiries about Smith's movements, establishing surveillance, gathering information about his routines. The £1 million bounty meant every stranger could be a potential assassin. Every unexpected knock on the door, every unfamiliar car parked near his home, every new face at his gym. But Smith couldn't simply run. Disappearing would confirm guilt and make him easier to find. A man on the run draws attention, leaves trails, makes mistakes. More importantly, fleeing would abandon everything he'd worked to build. Businesses, property, family relationships, the entire legitimate life he'd constructed as camouflage. Instead, Smith chose a different strategy: hide in plain sight, while slowly transitioning toward genuinely legitimate business. Between 2003 and 2007, he increasingly focused on legal operations. The car wash businesses became genuine income sources rather than mere fronts. He invested in Spanish property through legitimate channels. He turned down criminal opportunities worth millions, quietly extracting himself from active drug trafficking. To casual observers, Colin Smith appeared to be going straight, spending more time with family, developing legitimate business interests, distancing himself from criminal associates. But the transition wasn't complete, and it wasn't happening fast enough. Intelligence sources, revealed years later through Freedom of Information requests, report at least 2 confirmed assassination attempts during this period. Both failed due to last-minute schedule changes, Smith cancelling meetings, altering routines, the kind of unpredictability that keeps targets alive. But each close call was luck, not skill. Eventually, luck runs out. The psychological pressure must have been enormous. Imagine living 4, 5, 6 years knowing that professional killers are actively hunting you, that every public appearance is a calculated risk, that the text message you just received, the person waiting in your car park, the stranger asking directions, any of them might be the one. Did Smith believe time would solve his problem? Perhaps. Criminal memories are notoriously short. Priorities shift. New enemies emerge. Maybe he thought the Colombians would eventually move on to more pressing concerns. If so, he was fatally wrong, because on November 13, 2007, the past finally caught up. 6 years, that's how long Smith managed to stay one step ahead. 6 years of looking over his shoulder, changing routines, hoping the cartels would forget. November 13, 2007. We return to where this story began, but now with full context of what brought Colin Smith to this moment. His last day starts normally, kisses his wife goodbye, handles some business at the car wash, makes phone calls, reviews accounts. The mundane details of a legitimate businessman's ordinary Tuesday. Late afternoon, he drives to his regular gym in Speke. He's been coming here for years. Staff know him, other members recognize him. Nothing unusual, nothing threatening. He completes his workout, cardiovascular exercise, some weights, maintaining the fitness routine he's followed for years. Healthy living, taking care of himself, planning for a future he believes he'll live to see. His mobile phone buzzes. Text message from a number he recognizes. Someone needs to meet him urgently outside. Business matter. Won't take long. The message seems legitimate. Routine business communication, the kind he receives regularly. Smith pockets his phone, gathers his belongings, walks toward the exit. What he doesn't know, what he cannot know, is that the message is fake. The number is spoofed, using technology easily available to anyone willing to pay for it. The supposed urgent business matter is bait. Someone has been watching his movements for weeks, learning routines, identifying patterns, noting that Smith visits this gym 3 times weekly, usually arriving around the same time, usually staying for roughly 90 minutes, usually leaving alone. Smith pushes open the gym door and steps outside into the November evening. The car park is moderately busy. A few cars parked along the road, normal pedestrian traffic, nothing out of place. Street lighting adequate but not bright. Weather unremarkable. He scans the area, looking for whoever sent the message. Then he sees the figure approaching. Dark clothing, face obscured, moving with purpose directly toward him. By the time Colin Smith realizes something is wrong, it's too late to run, too late to react, too late for anything except the understanding that this is how it ends. The assassin carries a sawn-off shotgun, weapon chosen for devastating effectiveness at close range, for certainty of result, for sending an unmistakable message. This isn't a warning. This isn't negotiation. 2 shots fired, both hit their target. Colin Smith dies on a Liverpool street, within sight of the gym where he just finished his workout. The execution is brutal, efficient, unmistakably professional. The killer disappears into November darkness, leaving a body and a message understood by every criminal in Britain. The Columbian cartels always collect their debts. Within minutes, the area is swarming with police. But catching Smith's killers would prove nearly impossible, for reasons that reveal the limitations of British law enforcement against international criminal networks. The text message was fake, the meeting was a setup, and the 6-year countdown that began with a £20 million lie had finally reached 0. Merseyside police launch Operation Nike immediately, dozens of detectives assigned. Forensic teams process the scene, witnesses interviewed, CCTV footage reviewed, intelligence sources contacted. The investigation has significant advantages. The murder occurred in a relatively public location with potential witnesses. Smith's extensive criminal background provides obvious motives. The professional nature of the execution suggests organized crime networks that police have been monitoring for years. But advantages don't translate to convictions. The Columbian connection is immediately obvious. Intelligence files document the £1 million contract. Informants confirm that cartel-connected individuals had been making inquiries about Smith's whereabouts in the months before his death. The motive is clear, the method is clear, even the general source is clear, but proving it in a British court is virtually impossible. The people who ordered Colin Smith's execution operate from South America, protected by distance, diplomatic complexity, and the practical impossibility of extraditing cartel members to face British justice. The people who carried out the execution are professionals who left no physical evidence at the scene, no fingerprints, no DNA, no witnesses who saw faces clearly enough to provide useful descriptions. They likely left Britain within hours of the shooting, disappearing into criminal networks across Europe before police even knew their nationalities. The local criminals who might have information are either too frightened to talk or too implicated to serve as credible witnesses. The code of silence protecting criminal organizations also protects them from law enforcement, even when some members might privately approve of justice being done. Operation Nike makes arrests, several individuals questioned, some held on unrelated charges, pressure applied through the usual channels. Intelligence gathering continues for years, but despite extensive investigation, despite multiple arrests, despite international cooperation with Spanish and Dutch police forces, Operation Nike never results in a single conviction for Colin Smith's murder. The case remains officially unsolved. This failure isn't unusual. Liverpool was experiencing a wave of drug-related murders during this period. Over 100 similar cases between 2004 and 2010, the vast majority remaining open. Professional killings are notoriously difficult to solve when witnesses won't talk. Physical evidence is minimal, and the actual decision-makers operate beyond jurisdiction. Detective Superintendent Dave Brunskill, who led Operation Nike, told reporters in 2008, "We know why Colin Smith was killed. We know who wanted him dead. What we cannot do is prove it to the standard required for criminal prosecution." It's an honest admission of law enforcement's limitations against international organized crime. But the real victims weren't the police who couldn't solve the case, or the criminals who understood the message. The real victims were left to grieve a man they'd thought they knew. Remember, this assassination was a business decision, executed with the same precision the cartels brought to their cocaine operations. Colin Smith's wife and 4 children lost a husband and father in a moment of brutal violence outside a gym. Then they learned the truth. The quiet family man who attended school events and coached football had been living a double life. The car wash businesses that seemed to provide their comfortable lifestyle were fronts for one of Britain's largest cocaine importation networks. The man they'd trusted, loved, built their lives around, had stolen £20 million worth of drugs from Columbian cartels and paid for it with his life. They grieve not just his death, but the revelation of who he really was. The father they knew never existed. He was a carefully constructed performance, a role played convincingly for years, while the real Colin Smith operated in shadows they never suspected. The broader community paid prices too. Smith's murder was part of a wave of drug-related violence that claimed over 100 lives in Liverpool during this period. Each killing reinforced cycles of revenge and retaliation that made entire neighborhoods dangerous for ordinary residents who had nothing to do with the drug trade. Law enforcement learned painful lessons about the limitations of traditional policing against international organized crime. The real decision-makers, protected by borders and diplomatic immunity, professional killers who disappear without evidence, local police able to investigate thoroughly but unable to reach those truly responsible. For the criminal community, the message was unmistakable. Betray the Colombians at your own risk. The £1 million spent on Smith's assassination was an investment in cartel reputation, money well spent to ensure future compliance from other criminal partners across Europe. Several Liverpool criminals reportedly changed behavior after Smith's death. Debts paid more promptly, shipments handled more carefully, the quiet understanding that Colombian patience has limits, and Colombian revenge is inevitable. But beyond the violence and the unsolved case files, Smith's story raises uncomfortable questions about choices, consequences, and whether justice was ever really possible here. Colin Smith died outside a gym in Speke, but the real tragedy was playing out inside a family home, where 4 children were learning their father had never been who they thought. Colin Smith's story began with economic desperation and limited opportunities. Like many young men in 1980s Liverpool, he faced a choice between legitimate poverty, the dole queue, minimum wage work, decades of financial struggle, and illegitimate wealth through the only growth industry in his community, drug trafficking. For 15 years, the drug trade delivered everything it promised: millions in profit, status in criminal circles, the ability to provide his family a lifestyle that legitimate work could never match. For a long time, it seemed like Smith had beaten the odds. But his story also demonstrates that criminal success is always temporary and usually fatal. Smith's fatal flaw was believing he could control outcomes in an inherently uncontrollable environment. Criminal enterprises depend on trust between people who have no legal recourse when that trust breaks. They involve relationships with individuals who solve problems through violence. They require maintaining delicate balances that can shift without warning. When Smith stole the £72 million cocaine shipment, he broke the one rule that had kept him alive: always pay your debts. In legitimate business, theft might result in lawsuits, financial penalties, perhaps imprisonment. In the criminal world, theft results in death. The only question is when. The 6-year delay between the contract and the execution demonstrates another aspect of cartel justice: patience. They didn't react impulsively. They planned carefully, gathered intelligence, waited for the perfect opportunity. Their revenge was a business decision executed with the same professionalism they brought to cocaine distribution. Open questions remain. Could Smith have survived by confessing immediately and repaying the cartels? Unlikely. The lie was arguably the greater crime, the insult worse than the theft. The Colombians might have accepted financial restitution, but Smith's betrayal damaged their reputation in ways money couldn't repair. Did he know in his final moments who had sent the fake text message? We'll never know. The assassination happened too quickly for last words or final realizations. What happened to the £20 million he made? Presumably some was seized by police during subsequent investigations. Some likely remains hidden, either spent on legitimate investments or stashed in accounts his family cannot access. The Colombians certainly never recovered it. Was there ever a chance for justice through legal channels? Not realistically. The people responsible for ordering Smith's execution operate in jurisdictions where British law enforcement has no meaningful power. Even if Colombian authorities cooperated fully, which they wouldn't, proving conspiracy across international borders requires evidence that simply doesn't exist. In the end, Smith's wealth was meaningless, because dead men can't spend money and some debts can only be paid one way. Remember that choice in 2001, to keep the cocaine and lie about a seizure. That single decision cost Smith his life, but it also cost his family their father and their sense of who he'd been. Colin Smith's legacy is a warning about the true cost of easy money and a reminder that some paths, once chosen, can never be undone. He lasted longer than most in a world where the average drug dealer's career ends in prison or death within 5 years. He made more money than Curtis Warren, stayed quieter than any kingpin before him, and almost managed to transition into legitimate life. Almost. But the mathematics of criminal violence are unforgiving. Every dealer, every smuggler, every criminal entrepreneur believes they can be the exception, the one who gets rich without getting killed. The statistics don't support that belief. When Smith entered the drug trade, he accepted the possibility of violent death as an abstract risk, something that happened to careless people, reckless people, people unlike himself. When he stole from the Colombians, he made that possibility inevitable. The question his story leaves us with isn't whether he deserved what happened. That's a moral complexity without easy answers, a question involving desperation, choices, consequences, and the difference between legal justice and natural consequences. The question is whether we understand the real costs. Not just Smith's life, ended brutally outside a Liverpool gym. Not just the unsolved murder that remains in police files, but his children's trauma, learning their father was someone they never knew. His community's fear, living through years of drug-related violence. And the message sent to the next generation, watching from Liverpool's struggling estates, that crime pays well. Until suddenly, catastrophically, it doesn't. ECC Careful, UK-focused reporting on cases like this matters to you, consider subscribing. We cover true crime with the detail and respect it deserves, and we'd value your perspective on what cases to examine next. Colin Smith's story is closed, but the questions it raises about choices, consequences, and justice remain open.